Welcome back, baseball fans. It's Crabcakes and Baseball. My name is Jerry Shank. I am with our Maryland Scouting Director, Jamie Naill. Jamie, how is everything going?
Oh, it's going well, Jerry. We got the holiday out of the way, so more baseball on the horizon.
Absolutely. And let's get right into this week's episode. We got a lot to talk about as normal. And we also get to talk about some fun tournaments for two of our programs out west playing in a pretty big national tournament. So let's get rolling. So we're going to start first with our Power 25. Obviously, folks, Power 25 gets updated every single week with the high school rankings and then also our private Power 10 rankings. Just going to take a quick look into the Power 25 into our top 10. Still maintaining our top spot, we have Sherwood. At number 2 is Severna Park. Number 3, Northeast. Number 4, Stephen Decatur. At number 5, we got Catoctin moving up from the 9 spot last week. Moving up to number 6 is Urbana. Moving up or dropping down to number 7 is Broadneck. And then at number 8, we got Glen Elg, 9, Whitman, and rounding out your top 10 is Middletown. Now, last week, Jamie, we talked about the roller coaster that was our Power 25. There was a ton of games. There was a lot of up and down, a lot of teams, maybe some tough losses. It's early in the year, though. Now, this week, looks like we got a lot more solidarity. Our top 4 stayed the same. There were little movement here and there, really throughout the Power 25. But one team in particular that I want to get your thoughts on, they had a little bit of a tougher week. It was a tough, kind of a heartbreaking loss for them last week, but it looks like they're starting to get back on the right track, and that is Walt Whitman out of Montgomery County. 2 solid wins this week, beating Wooten and Poolsville. So, Jamie, what's your thoughts on Whitman?
Yeah, I was like I said in last week's pod. I was at the game against Northwest, and it was surprising, to say the least. You know, Whitman on paper on both sides of the ball is extremely talented. They're deep on both sides, very explosive. So to see them get back on track this week is very good and a positive sign as well. So hopefully they can keep that rolling because Whitman's one of my top teams to watch throughout this spring. So to see them get back on track this week was definitely big.
Yeah, absolutely. And just our final little shout out, 3 new teams enter the top 25. We've got Delaney, Centennial, and Colonel Richardson all moving into the top 25 this week for our PBR Maryland Power 25 rankings. Now, one more thing to look at, games for next week, a big matchup. Looking out west, we got Catoctin taking on Liberty out of Carroll County, 2 small school powers. Liberty had a little bit of a setback this past week with a loss, their first loss of the year. We don't think they're going to lose too much, Jamie, but this looks like it's going to be a pretty good matchup.
Yeah, it should be high octane on both sides. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I saw Catoctin last week against Boonesboro, and you can see why they're so talented and why they're highly touted as one of the top teams in the state. Pitching staff is phenomenal. They have some explosiveness at the plate, so Catoctin's a lot of fun to watch. And Liberty with their young talent and some of their senior leadership as well. That Wednesday matchup is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so let's stay with Catoctin because now let's move on to our team of the week. And it is, in fact, Catoctin High School. Team of the week for last week 4-0, big wins for the Cougars again. They've improved to 9-0 on the season. Wins over Boonesboro, Walkersville, Tuscarora, and then Morgantown out of West Virginia. So another strong week for Catoctin. Kudos to the Cougars. Like you said, you got to watch them last week. Got some nice young talent mixed with some very good experience. Obviously, you got McManus on the bump, so that's a great way to anchor that pitching staff. So, congratulations, Catoctin Cougars. You're the PBR Maryland Team of the Week for Week 3. Honorable mentions throwing out to Delaney, Sherwood, Severna Park, and Thomas Johnson. All had strong weeks, but none better than the Catoctin Cougars. So let's move on to our games from last week. Just some highlights from the games that we got to see. And Jamie, the first matchup we're going to talk a little bit about them right now, but it was a big win in the private school sector. Gilman and MIA, especially Gilman, defeats Loyola with a walk-off single by 2024. Dom Moats, Maryland commit Dom Moats in the eighth inning in extra innings. What do you have to say about that big win for the Greyhounds?
Yeah, I mean, it was huge, and Dom has kind of been fighting a little bit of injuries this year. To see him back healthy now and as close to 100% as he is, it's huge. And you know what Dom can do to that lineup, and especially in the outfield as well. Having him in that lineup spruces it up for sure. And Gilman knocking off Loyola, and Loyola was hot and Loyola was rolling. Had two big wins against Georgetown Prep a couple weeks ago, and Loyola's been rolling. And I've seen Loyola twice now, and they're very, very talented. So Gilman upsetting them is huge, and having Dom Moats anchor that lineup is now very, very big for the Greyhounds.
Yeah, yeah, and for those of you who don't know, Dominic Moats, 2024, just transferred into Gilman this year. This is his first year in Maryland. Played at school in Pennsylvania before. Was a highly ranked player by PBR PA. We had the opportunity to see him at multiple events. He's actually a Future Games alumni with Team Mid Atlantic. Outfielder, super speedy, very toolsy player, and he's definitely a guy that. If you haven't been able to get to see him, he's definitely a fun player to watch over there at Gilman. Um, so yeah, now let's move on to our next game that I want to talk about a little bit. We had talked about this team, North Hagerstown. We had talked about them a little bit last week. They're very intriguing. We've talked about them a lot, maybe not on the pod, but just back and forth, just kind of talking about this. This has the potential to be a special team. They took off, or I'm sorry, they took on Thomas Johnson. And Thomas Johnson, they continue to find ways to win games. They're a they have a lot of experience on the roster. They had a deep run last year. They always seem to be in there, and it seems like in the past few years, they've always done really well, and they do it again. The the pressure didn't get to them. They had a walk-off win against North Hagerstown. Senior Ty Allen with a walk-off, two RBI single in the bottom of the seventh, and it was a pitching battle with Jacob Nath and then Max Stifler for North Hagerstown. Ben Perch, two huge shutout innings out of the pen. Um, so it was a really nice win for Thomas Johnson, kind of again doing what we've seen them do in years past. So Jamie, I want to throw it off to you. I'm probably not going to give you much to say anyways because I just said all of that stuff. But what would you like to say about that
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much covered it, and we had one of our guys out there to watch it and scout it. It was a big win for TJ. Obviously, going up against Max Stifler is always tough, but Jacob Hanath looked really good for TJ as well. I'll tell you what about Stifler, and obviously the arm is big for Stifler out at North Hagerstown, but the bat is really playing this year. I know you and I have talked about it. He's got a few home runs this year. There's plenty of juice in that bat. It almost reminds me of McManus at Catoctin because the arm is so special and the arm is going to play at the next level. But the bat in the high school level is very, very impressive. So I just wanted to kind of throw that tidbit in there. But that TJ North Hagerstown game, that was a big one. TJ is extremely scrappy. They always stay in games and they find ways to win at the end.
game? Yeah, just an aside from that, I think something that's big, and this is just on a scouting side more so than anything else, is when you see these guys who are pitcher onlys, you like to see them even at the high school level. They're probably not going to hit at the collegiate level, but you like to see them succeed at the plate offensively because it shows that athleticism and it shows that they've got a lot more potential to continue to move on. So just a little tidbit to add on with that. Now let's move on. Let's go to our MIAA minute. And we had a pretty big week in the MIAA. Two teams from the conference went out west, played in a big national tournament out in Nevada, hosted by Bishop Gorman, and it was Archbishop Spalding and then John Carroll. Now, Spalding had a very strong week, had a minor setback to start it off. They ended up going 3-1 on the week, and then John Carroll Early season for them. You know, they're only 3 games deep into the season prior to heading out there. They went 1-4, very close games in all of their matchups. But Jamie, there's a few players who did really well that I think you wanted to highlight.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity to send a couple Maryland teams out there. I kind of just wanted to touch on that. The talent that was out there was immense, and I don't want to kind of sugarcoat that at all. The teams out there were very, very highly touted, and watching Spalding go out there and compete with the best of the best was impressive. And coming back with a 3-1 record, they showed their prowess on the bump for sure. Jaeger looked really, really good in the first outing. I know they ended up losing, but 6 2/3, 12 punches, tough 2-1 loss in that first game. But after that, Spalding really rolled. The offense was good, but the pitching really showed, like I said, the prowess and what we've seen kind of all spring in Maryland. And they definitely took that out to Vegas. Cody Sharman had a huge outing, 7 innings, 1 hit, no earned in the second game. Emmons and Wines combined for the W in the third game. And then Parker Thomas, same thing that we've seen all year long. He's absolutely dominant. He went 5 innings, only gave up 1 hit, punched 10. So a really, really, really good outing for Spalding out there. And it was special to see them have success.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So let's continue on. One other thing that we want to note, we talked about it earlier, the Gilman big win over Loyola, but Gilman had a really strong week as well. They went 2-0 on the week. Nice wins over Mount St. Joe's and Loyola. So congrats to Gilman for a good week. Congrats to Spalding for a really strong tournament out west. And we didn't talk about them much, but do not shut the door on John Carroll whatsoever. It was a tough week, but it was the start to the season. I'm not going to be surprised to see them continue to climb back out there. They've got too much talent. They're too good of a team. It's a well-run organization there, so do not count them out whatsoever. They played really well. The ball could have dropped here and there. It could have been a completely different thing. So let's keep an eye out for the Patriots as always. Now, Jamie, let's move on to our scout blogs. We got to see some players again. We got to see some more talent that you want to talk about. A lot of 24s. We got a few 25s in here, and even an uncommitted senior who's just still floating around that somebody might want to watch. But let's start with a guy we have talked about before on this pod, and that's 2024 Andrew Kearns out of St. Maria Goretti. You got to see him again for the second time. What's your thoughts now after two visits?
Yeah, it was another extremely impressive outing. Andrew Kearns, he fills it up. The two outings that I've seen from him, he absolutely fills the strike zone up. There's a ton of confidence out there on the bump. Velo was a little down. It was an early morning game. It was a little cold out there at Mount St. Joe, but he was up to 90, 6 2/3 innings pitched. Only gave up 1 hit, punched 7. No runs. So another impressive outing for Kearns. Still uncommitted in that 24 class, and pretty much that top uncommitted arm in that 24 class that we've been getting a lot of phone calls on, and I've been talking to Andrew a lot. He's extremely pumped about how he's been throwing this year, and it's a highly touted arm that a lot of people need to get out and see.
Yeah, and let's stay in that 2024 class. Moving on to our next player. Looks like you found a little versatile position guy in 2024, Will Oates.
Yeah, so we're going to stay actually with Goretti. Will Oates is extremely impressive. I've seen Goretti 2 or 3 times this year, and Oates just continues to swing the bat with authority too. He goes gap to gap. He can pull to the left center field gap. But I really like the line drive approach to all fields. His first at bat, he hit a seed into right field, kept his hands inside on a tough inside fastball. So that's an impressive uncommitted 2024 bat that I really, really like. And like I said, every time I get out to see him, all he does is hit. So it's a positional, versatile guy. He catches for Goretti, but I think he can play the infield as well. He's got the third base body, strong arm there. So he's very good behind the plate, but I think at the next level, he can be versatile and he can move around the infield. So that's a highly touted bat that I think people need to get out and see as well.
Excellent, excellent. All right, we're backed up against it a little bit, so we're going to have to run a little bit faster with these next three players, but I do want to get them in. Uncommitted 2024. Let's go to Delaware and a really intriguing outfielder that honestly, he was injured last year. There's a good chance that he would already have been committed if he would have been healthy all season last year, and that's Cape Henlopen's outfielder 2024, Gage Joseph.
Yeah, I finally got my Delaware game in, Jerry. So I got out there last week. Gage Joseph is special, and that's one of many words to describe him. He's a top uncommitted bat in that 24 class. Power to the middle. I can talk on and on about him, but Gage Joseph, that's a special uncommitted 2024 bat that is highly touted in Maryland and Delaware, and he's special. That's for sure.
Yeah, and he's still just coming back from injury, tore his ACL last year, so not quite at 100%, but once he does get up there, you've got some close to high top level speed as well in the outfield. So definitely a name to keep an eye on. Now let's go to Catoctin. You got uncommitted 2025, Jacob Bell. I know you're a big fan.
Yeah, and I think I called you right after the game and told you that this 2025 bat is special, man. So the strength to the pull side and the barrel awareness definitely stood out to me in that Catoctin game against Boonesboro. He's special. He's strong. He's physical. He moves extremely well. He's super athletic. So Jacob Bell, that's a guy that I'm definitely going to go out and see again this spring.
All right, and now let's round it out. Our final one. Now we've got an uncommitted, unsigned senior, and you've got, let's go to Loyola, two-way talent, Wyatt Mummert.
Yeah, Wyatt Mummert, we've always known him as the arm. I've seen him throw a bunch in the past, but the bat definitely stood out in that game last week. He went poolside double, an absolute seed into right center field, and then a solo home run that may have not landed yet. Went over the scoreboard. It was loud. It was ferocious. So that's an uncommitted senior two way that I think the bat's really picking up now. So we know the prowess on the bump, but that bat can definitely play.
That's outstanding stuff, Jamie. Going to be another busy week. I'm sure we're going to have a lot more talent that we're going to see heading into this week. But everyone will want to thank you, as always, for listening, for taking this time with us. That's going to wrap it up for Crab Cakes and Baseball. We'll see you next week. It's Crab Cakes and Baseball. It's what PBR Maryland does.